Hey, you guys are just in time. We're getting ready to finish up the rough-in electrical process here. We are scheduled to have our inspection done next week, and I have a couple of days yet to get things finished up. We're about halfway through the process. And before we get started on today's video, I do want to throw out a little disclaimer. I am not a licensed electrician, so take everything for what it's worth. I'm just a guy trying to do his own build, and in this case, do my own electrical install on our garage/workshop. If you're not comfortable with doing your own electrical, then I highly encourage you get somebody who's licensed to either guide you and help you along in the project or do the project in its entirety. So let me show you where we're at, and I'll kind of go over some things. I've had multiple conversations with our county inspector on what he's looking for, what I can do, what I can't do, so I'll pass that along to you guys. Just know that your county may be a little different, and your inspector may require something a little different or look at things differently. So again, just take everything with a grain of salt. This is how I'm doing it, and I'll let you guys know at the end of the video here whether we passed our inspection or not. And if you have comments, questions, suggestions, put them in the comments section down below, and I'll do my best to try to answer them or find you the answer if I don't know it. There's a lot to know. I can't cover it all in one video, nor do I know it all. So it's going to be a fun one. I've enjoyed the process up to this point, and I'm excited to get this done. So let's get to it. I'm going to start with the main breaker panel. This is my 200 amp service panel, and as of right now, I'm planning on this being the main panel for the entire residence. So my main breaker panel will be in here, and I'm actually going to feed a sub panel that I'm going to put in the house from this breaker panel. I'm doing that because it's not the most optimal way to do things, but I'm doing that because I want to be able to use the garage as a workshop while I'm building the home. And I wanted my temporary power pole taken down, and I wanted to trench in the power and get things powered up here in the building. That way I can, it doesn't matter what the elements are doing outside, I can come in here and work and not be delayed. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing here. For the rough-in inspection, they don't want anything wired up. So they just want the wires ran and stubbed out through the boxes, and that's what I've done. The electrical inspection will come on later. That will come later down the road, and that's when they're going to look at actually how I've wired things up and make sure everything is safe at that point. So for the rough-in frame-in, they're just making sure at this point that structurally you haven't compromised anything by drilling holes through your studding. In my case, it'd be the posts, which obviously I can't drill through the posts because that would be very detrimental to the integrity of the building. Speaking of posts, let me show you what the inspector said. I asked another very specific question on how to run the wiring, and he told me, don't do it. All right, I'm gonna, for an example, show you how I did this first plug. I came from my breaker panel, and I'm using 12-2 wire because all my receptacles are gonna be 20 amp receptacles, and I wanted a 20 amp circuit. So for 20 amps, you use 12-2 wire, and I've run my wire out the panel, up and over and down my post. So you can see, here's my first receptacle. I have two wires coming into it. One is the power source. The second one is going back up through the ceiling, over my truss, and back down the post. Seems like I'm wasting a lot of wire, right? Because I'm coming down, back up. Why don't I just run it across the wall here? Well, herein lies the problem. When I go from a receptacle to receptacle, I asked the inspector, can I run it in this gap? The answer was no. I'm glad I asked him. He said everything is gonna have to be run overhead. So that's what I'm doing. That's the way he wants it done. That's the way I'm gonna do it. I thought about putting junction boxes at the top and not having to run, running my power source across the top and then just dropping one cable down. But the cost of junction boxes versus the extra 7 feet of wire, it was pretty much a wash. So this is just quicker and easier. So I've put a receptacle on each post, I also have receptacles overhead for my garage door openers. These are on a separate circuit all by themselves. So I have 2 of those, and those are run over straight over into my main breaker panel. And let me show you outside what we've done. Outside, here's my meter base. Straight through, my service entrance cables will come up through here. They're gonna loop around. I've already talked to Duke Energy. They're gonna loop them around, hook into the top, and then I'm gonna come from the bottom straight in through and into my breaker panel. The plumbing will all be underground, so I'm doing underground service, and Duke has come out and marked where I want the path to come in. I'm going to do the trenching in between the buildings just because I want to do it, so I know that nothing gets damaged. And then Duke is going to take over from the corner here and trench it in out to my power pole and connect me in. So that's the receptacle side of this project. We have 3 more to put in. 50 amp RV receptacle, which is a 240 volt deal. I'm doing a 240 volt 30 amp circuit, and I'm doing a 120 volt 30 amp circuit. Those 3 plugs, the 50 amp will be exterior, the 2 30 amps will be interior. The 30 amps will double both as, one will be an RV plug / car charger, and the other one will be a fast car charger with the 240 volts. And then I can also hook up welders and any kind of high amperage or high voltage equipment inside the garage and the workshop. So that'll be nice to have a nice option. What I'm doing today is getting the lights hooked up. My receptacles are going to be 20 amps. They are 20 amp circuits, and I'm running 20 amp receptacles with 12-2 wire. For the lights, I'm going to downgrade that just a little bit. You can save a little bit of money by going with 14-2 wire, a 15 amp circuit breaker, and I'm going to put LED lights in, which don't pull a whole lot of power, so 15 amps should be plenty. It's going to be 3 exterior lights, 3 interior lights, and 2 interior ceiling fans. Not anything crazy as far as the fans go. It's just going to be normal fans with some LED lights on them. And the cool thing about LEDs are they don't pull a whole lot of watts, so I can get away with putting more lights on a single circuit. We're going to have 3 switches as you walk into the door to control the lights and the fans. And then I'm also going to have some remote controls to run the fans. So all of the lighting will be run on 14-2 wire, and everything receptacle wise, with the exception of the 3 that I already mentioned, will be 20 amp circuits run on 12-2 wire. So let's get to this. I need to get this wrapped up because inspection is next week. So let's have you follow along with me, and I'll show you what I'm doing. Let's get this hole drilled so I can kind of calm down a little bit and get that behind me. All right, I think I have this figured out. This is my exterior plug. I have 1-inch conduit coming down, which again, you have to read code to know what size conduit you should use based on the size and number of conductors that are going to be in it. So this is 1 inch. I'm gonna have 3 number 6 wire conductors run through this to the plug, and it's going to go directly into the breaker box from this box. But I have that planned out and I feel comfortable with that. What I don't feel comfortable with is using this hole saw here to cut a hole in my steel siding. I've bought, this is a reducer cap, and it's normally not used for this, but I wanted something that I could put into the hole and act as a sleeve to hide both the cut area. This has like a little lip on it. I don't know if you can see that there. So I'm gonna bore the hole in, slide this into the hole. It's big enough to let this back end slide in, but won't let this front end slide in. And then this top piece here will slide into this, and I will silicone around here before I slide it in, and this exterior will be siliconed as well. And that'll act as kind of a sleeve. So if I do ever have to take this back off the building, or I need to access it for whatever reason, I can do so. And I have hidden my hole that I've cut with my saw. And I think that should be nice. And then on the back side, it'll be plumbed into the breaker panel. So that's my plan as of right now. I have the hole marked, and I think we're going to be in between the girt boards, and we're going to be into a position where we can make the conduit work. We'll probably have to either cut some off or add some. The one benefit I had to going into this project was I had some extra 12-2 wire that left over from previous home remodeling projects. I probably had 200 feet of it, which is nice, probably worth $100 right now. And then I had a piece of 1-inch, 10-foot, 1-inch conduit, and conduit's expensive, and sometimes it can be hard to find depending on when you're and where you're looking for it. So that was kind of nice as well. So that's an expense that I didn't have to fork out now, but I think I got my nerve up to go give this a shot. So let's see if we can get this hole in. Okay, had a little snafu with the camera. It didn't hit the record button, so you missed me drilling the hole. But we got it in there, and I have my pieces here. Let's see how this thing looks. So the sleeve is gonna go in, covers the hole really nice. And then this is going to set right in here like this. That'll hold that sleeve in there. This will be screwed to the wall. Oh, that's gonna look really good, I think. Now the next part is to get this box mounted. So let's go ahead and do that. Here's a look at the inside plumbing. So there's the box on the outside, sleeve, 1-inch conduit in towards the top. And we're gonna hook into this breaker right here. This is the 50 amp GFCI. Since it is an outside plug, it had to be a GFCI circuit breaker. Probably going to be a little bit of a challenge to get that wire to feed through there. I have to put it in conduit because I'm using THHN wire, and that must be, from my understanding, run in conduit. So there it's plumbed, and then the receptacle outside. There's a look at it, finished product, and you can see this is how I put the little sleeve on, and I just put a little dab of silicone bead all the way around it just to seal any water out, and then you can't see it, but there's silicone back up in that fitting as well, sealing this PVC pipe to the sleeve. So that should be a nice watertight seal. And then eventually the plug will go in here. It's a lockable box, and we'll get our wire, run our wire through there, and then get our rough in passed. And once that's passed, we can put the plug in and wire it up. Here's my box for my 240 volt 30 amp circuit that will run up. I have to get the wire yet, run up, over, down into the circuit breaker panel. And then I did the same thing on the other side. We have the 120 30 amp circuit that'll come up and shoot over and down into the panel. So those two circuits are done. So all of my extra circuits are done. Now it's a matter of getting the lights in. We're gonna have 3 LED canless lights actually, because there's gonna be a countertop here, workbench type of setup, and there'll be 3 lights above that. And then I also put in a box here for my first exterior light, which is there. Easy to mount. I cut that from the inside out. Just use my oscillating tool and cut this out at a wood steel blade, and that is a done deal. Now the front is going to be a little tricky because we're doing a sconce here on that side of the door, and then we're gonna do a sconce over there on the other side. But the problem is I have just a small gap here to work with. I have an 1.5 inch gap there between my OSB and my post. So that's gonna have to use a slim box to fit it in there, and I'll have to fish the wires through. So that'll be a little bit of a project, but these two lights up front will run off the same switch as the exterior light there. They're also on photocells, so as long as the switch is on, the light will come on when it gets dark. So we'll have 3 outside lights, 1, 2, and 3, and those will all match. But that is the game plan. I don't have the boxes for these, so I'm gonna have to make another trip to Lowe's tomorrow to grab that, which is no big deal. But for today, we're pretty much all wrapped up. I think I'm gonna have 2 more days of electrical work before we're ready for the rough in. The other thing we've done is I put some fan boxes up here, so we're gonna have 2 fans on this end of the building, which will be nice. So tomorrow we'll get the rest of the exterior sconces on and get the wire ran from the inside, and then probably the following day we'll break the bank, buy the wire, both for the 30 amp service and for both sides, and the 50 amp service behind my door there. So that's it for today. We'll check in tomorrow and hopefully be a little closer to having this done. We have just officially passed our electrical rough-in inspection, and I am super happy. First time around, we passed it. It's a pretty easy inspection, especially with post frame, because we're not boring through anything that's structural. I've ran all of the wires overhead up along the post. There's really almost no holes bored at all in the building. So the rough-in is pretty simple compared to a conventional build where you're boring through the studding to run your wires horizontally. The one downside I will say to it, and the one downside to post frame, because I couldn't run my wires behind or in front of the post, I had to go up overhead. So you use a little bit more wire when you run it that way, but it makes the inspection easy, and it's easy to keep it organized, I think, by doing that, running it all up overhead and running it down the sides. It made it pretty easy. So the only thing of note really was this PVC back here. I didn't have it glued up because I wanted to get his take on it before I glued it and made it completely final. And he was happy with the way it ran. I just needed to glue it. So I've just completed that. So the rough-in and electrical inspection is complete. The next inspection, hopefully will be later this week, is going to be the rough frame-in inspection and the HVAC rough-in for my mini split, which again is going to be a very easy inspection because there's no ductwork at all in it. I basically have to get the outside unit set, get the whole board in the wall, and that'll be it. And then when we do our final electrical inspection, they'll look at the wiring for the HVAC unit, along with the wiring for all my plugs and switches, and my breaker panel, of course. So we're making good progress. Hopefully get the next inspection done this week, and then I'm going to go above and beyond what's required because this is a garage / workshop, man cave, whatever you want to call it. It's considered not livable space. So insulation is not required, but I'm going to go ahead and do some insulation because I'm heating and cooling it to temper the atmosphere inside the building. And I'm also going to do fire blocking. He didn't think it was required. He wasn't 100% sure on it because it's unlivable space. But I'm going to go ahead and do it anyways to kind of get a feel because it will be required on the house, and the house construction is the same as this. And that's the whole reason I did this build first, was to make sure that we do things right the first time. So I'm going to try some fire blocking. I'll video that. That'll be later on down the road. But we'll get that done and we can kind of see if that, what I'm thinking is going to work well. And if not, we may change it up a little bit for the house. But that's all I got for you guys today. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sticking with me till the end here of the video. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe, like, comment below. If you have questions, comments, complaints, concerns, whatever, put them down there. I'll try to do my best to answer those, and hopefully see you later on, maybe in the week, beginning of next week, by the time I get the video uploaded. And we'll check back in for the frame-in and HVAC rough-in inspection. Thanks, guys. We'll see you on the next video.